Hey, what's going on, good people? Welcome back once again to Baddest Chaplain. Hoping all is well with you and yours. Today, I am joined by Alycia Wright. Alycia, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing well, thank you. Hope you are
Oh,
as well.
oh, for sure, for sure. We're recording this on Martin Luther King Day, and shout out to everyone who's watching along with us on Twitch and LinkedIn. So, I want to start with your time in the traditional classroom setting. You spent years there before transitioning to homeschooling your own children. Talk with us about that light bulb moment when you realized that this isn't quite working. This isn't enough to really contain the fullness of your children's identities. Like what was that aha moment for you in your education journey?
Yeah, well, there were several, um, but the primary reason before we even, homeschooled, we, opted for a private Montessori school because we just felt
Okay.
that was more in alignment with the types of educational experiences we wanted for our children.
Uh-huh.
But, with the birth of, our 4th daughter, we realized really quickly that, that wasn't gonna be feasible because I was a public school teacher and we were
Right.
making negative dollars, my husband told me.
Yeah, yeah, right. Right, right, right.
But in essence, what made us decide to not do public school was an interaction that we had at our local elementary school that I felt was a really great example of how my daughter was going to be treated,
Yeah, yeah.
right? With the treatment of how I was treated there, I
Right.
knew that it just wasn't a space that I wanted her in.
Uh-huh.
And when we could no longer really afford to send 4 children, 3 children to private school plus a infant, tuition daycare bill, I had a master's degree in education. I knew I could do it myself and do it
For
better,
sure.
and so that was the option.
Yeah, yeah. So you say, I got this skill, I can do this, and we can, not stretch ourselves too thin. I respect that.
Exactly. Yes.
I think that there's so many parents when they're in the same sort of predicament, they struggle with this whole sense of saying school at home. I know when I talked to friends and
Mm,
talked about what my wife and I had planned with regards to our boys, they were like, couldn't be me. I can't imagine. Or like, I don't think that'd be good for us. I don't think it'd be a good situation for us if I homeschooled my kids. What did you feel like you had to unlearn with regard to like traditional teaching methods? Like, as education, we're all those of us who were in education were taught how to teach in a particular way. But what did you need to unlearn so that you could create a space that actually felt like home? It wasn't just like, your house now becomes school all the time.
right. I actually think, sort of the saying that doctors make the worst patients. I think
Right.
it actually I actually think, it's even harder when you're steeped in educational pedagogy. We are
Sure.
taught to teach large numbers of children. We are
Yes,
not
yes,
taught to teach individual children,
for sure.
and we are taught how to manage time and manage classrooms and manage
Right.
behaviors.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I would say, unfortunately, I feel like even in, graduate level studies, I felt like the curriculum still oftentimes came second to those things.
Yeah, classroom management was
Right.
king.
That's
Right.
the key. And it makes sense, right? Because if you've got 25 kids, you've gotta first you have to provide an environment that makes learning even possible,
Come on. Right.
right? But at home, I did probably what a lot of people did my first year, which is I recreated school at home
Yeah.
or attempted to. I had all the beautiful schedules written down to the couple of minutes or 30 minutes. And you learn very quickly that that's not how life works.
Not at all. Not at all.
Right? Like a lot of people who are sort of, in this sort of Gen X or right before, right after age, a lot
Uh,
of times we have parents that we need to still check on. We've got, and because you're now home, the expectation is that, someone needs to come work on the cable. You're the
right.
one at home.
That's right. You there already.
Right? My husband's not taking off when I'm at home. So you end up having to take on these additional life tasks
Yes.
which can seem like, a little bit of a burden, but they're actually just a really great example of life
Yeah.
and being able to navigate and pivot and say, okay, we've got to go take grandma to the VA today. She's got her appointment. Grab your things. This is what we're doing.
Yeah, yeah.
And those are valuable lessons as well. So I really like to encourage people that you don't have to have an educational background. Just you being the parent and having an interest in wanting your no one's gonna want your children to succeed like you.
That's the truth.
No one,
Right. Like, how
right?
could
No
they?
one's yeah, they can't. No one is going to be willing to pour in as much investment as you as the parent because that's your legacy. That's who you birth. It's a representation of you and your family and hopefully the generations to come. And so I think sometimes people, say, "Oh, I could never do that," without really thinking about could they really do it?
Right, they just dismiss it from the beginning, never really
It's very
investigated.
yeah, it's very dismissed, and I think, well, you somewhat do it oftentimes in the summer, right?
It's
And
true.
and that's you add a little bit more structure to that, but basically you have your children with you, and I don't understand people say, "I can't have my children with me." Like, they're your children.
Nah, but I let's keep it a stack. There's some
But
people
I
who really
understand.
don't wanna have their kids around like that.
That's true.
Some
That
people,
that is true.
you know?
That is true.
'Cause I know I
And
like being around my boys. That don't mean everybody wanna be around their kids. You know what I mean? Like, that's another wrinkle.
yeah, that's very true too.
Yeah.
But I would hope that, whatever it is about your children that are somewhat, annoying or triggering, because children will reflect that. Oftentimes, I feel what happens is children
Uh-huh.
are reflections of you.
No doubt, without question.
And so, what you're seeing, from those behaviors a lot of times are actually a mirror, probably of who you were as a young person.
Right, right.
What your parents, you know? And so I think, "Oh, okay, where'd they get this from?"
Uh-huh.
I I do that.
Oh,
So
yeah.
now I gotta
I'm arguing with her right now, right. Yeah.
I'm arguing with myself.
Of course, of course. One of the things I admire about you is your consistent advocacy about culturally relevant pedagogy. Um, so as we're talking particularly for folks within the diaspora who are thinking about starting on this journey of educating their children. How do you encourage them to move beyond Black History Month units to
Mm,
making Black culture the actual lens through which every subject from math to science is taught, right? Like, so we're recording this, we're streaming on MLK Day. It's easy to just like today focus on something
right.
Black history related, but how do we do that sort of Black History 365, math, science, every subject?
I found, as someone who attended public schools, which I loved, right? I love school,
Right?
but we know that schools don't center, Black perspectives.
No, not even,
Right,
not
and unless you went to you were lucky enough to go to, like, an African-centered school or freedom school or one of
yes,
those spaces, you probably did not get a lot of the information or the building up, right?
right.
And so I encourage parents to start by, learning themselves,
Come on.
right?
Yeah,
Learn, you know they talk about one of the best, um, things you can do to be successful is, of course, reading,
of course.
right? But that has to be modeled
Yes, it does.
to
Yes, it
children,
does.
right? Because children, they hear what you say, but they see what you do.
No doubt about it.
And if you're constantly talking about reading, yet you never pick up books, it's sort of like, well, is this really important? Is
Right.
this really the thing? But we also understand, we have parents have busy lives and and different things, and so maybe that's just not something that's easy for the
Sure.
adult. But with regards to Black studies, I think the best thing you could do is really just try to immerse yourself. Take on new traditions if you can, right? Kwanzaa is a really great example of something that people can do 365 and
Yeah.
focusing on the principles and really just trying to incorporate those things into your daily life. And I think that once you start to do those things, like an awakening starts to happen, right? And
Mhm.
then you find yourself specifically looking out for Black businesses for this and for that, and
Right.
connecting with Black groups and, just really pushing yourself out there more and more so that it becomes just a part of who you are, not that you're constantly on the outside trying to get in, but just understanding that that is who you are. It's your
Yeah.
birthright. It was kept from us.
Right.
And, we owe it to ourselves and to our children to tap back in to who we are.
No,
Um,
certainly.
and that includes, all the things, right? From I don't know, from foods, right, to the little, teaching your kids the little rhymes we used to do when we were kids, they're a part of sort of Black culture and the double
Right.
dutch and just all the things, but also, trying to learn, attending the museums, not just on specific days and holidays, but, attending the exhibits when they open up, taking your children when there are Black authors in town doing things, just
Yes.
really actively searching for the communities that you can be a part of that will help you learn about yourself, but also celebrate and having your children see those things. I think um one of the biggest things that I won't say biggest, one of the things that I see sometimes um is we can celebrate ourselves but also appreciate the other diversities around us,
Of course.
right?
Of course.
Without the exclusion or without the sort of shaming and the guilting of other people. You can focus on
Right.
and keep it moving. That's the way I
Yes.
like to think about it. And so I don't, I tr- I really try to do that and I really try to live that way,
Mhm.
right? Where I'm centering who we are, but we're also acknowledging and appreciative to the gifts of other cultures around us,
No
right?
doubt.
And I am spending more time building up the stories about our greatness than I am the stories about other people's wickedness.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's true
100%.
too, right?
Right,
But
right. It's a accurate account of history, but at the same time,
that's
there's a way in which to your point, you can do this that instills a sense of, like, I can do anything rather than the sort of unintended consequence of, "Man, I can't do anything." You know what I mean?
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's who are you centering? Are we
Yeah.
centering are the conversations constantly on, the evils or wickedness or acts of others? Or are
Right.
they on the building, the greatness of self?
Yeah. Right.
It can be a combination of
Resilience.
the 2, but I think you can go too far sometimes and not enough time spent on learning who we are.
Yeah.
Because once you know who you are, and you understand the power dynamics and all the
Come on.
things,
Come
then
on.
you don't have to worry about that stuff as much.
No.
Okay, I
Right.
get it.
Yeah. Totally. When you're talking about, public schools that are culturally relevant, I went to a public school, in Brooklyn that was called the Marcus Garvey School, and so
Yeah,
it was so and it didn't seem at the time, like, special. It was just like, "Oh, we're gonna learn about Malcolm X today. We're gonna learn about, Phyllis Wheatley." Like, all these different,
right.
stories are just, like, a part of our rhythms, and it didn't feel special until much later when I was, like, an educator. I was like, "Wow, that does not happen everywhere." But it instilled such a sense of exactly what you're talking about, Alicia, this sense of I can confidently be who I'm called to be because I've seen examples of great people who look like me who are able to accomplish incredible things, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, when you grow up with that gift of self and gift of knowledge, then it's nearly impossible for someone to tell you what you can't do
Oh, yeah,
because
you
you
just
know what you can
it
do,
bounces off. It
right?
bounces off straight up.
But if you spent your life being told all the things the stories being left out of all
Mhm.
the greatness, then it's very possible you think, well, maybe I can't do that. These people are
Right.
probably right because I'm looking at the way this country is set up and I'm thinking, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. What you're saying reminds me of, Dr. King talking about, his children seeing a commercial for, like, an amusement park and asking why can't they go, like, on a Tuesday, but the park was closed to Black people on particular days of the week. And
mm,
when he was trying to explain this gently to his small children, they're, like, under the age of 10, he wrote about clouds of inferiority showing up in their eyes, right? Like, this sense of the world being locked off to them rather than the world being their oyster, something that they could just
right,
do whatever. And so how do we help children see themselves as protagonists of their educational journey rather than just footnotes in someone else's history, right? Not just, background actors, but actually people who are helping to move society forward.
right. I think one of the best things you can do is to try to empower kids early. So
Yeah.
I can sort of talk about the route that we take, which,
Uh-huh.
I'll just say I have a 21-year-old, soon to be 18-year-old, who's a senior in high school,
Uh-huh.
homeschool high school. I have a 16-year-old and a 12-year-old. So the 18, 16, and 12 have always been homeschooled. The
Uh-huh.
16-year-old actually just went to public school. They've been there for a full semester now, so we'll see how that continues.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
I also believe in letting young people empowering young people and letting them make choices, right?
For
You say, "All right, I've given you the tools, let's see."
right,
But
right, right.
finding ways for young people to empower themselves early. And
Uh,
I say that because I think sometimes we say the kids can do things, but then we don't always follow through sometimes with the things they wanna do because maybe it feels so lofty and so big, but, it's always the best way to eat an elephant is, one bite at a time, one foot in front of the other, and so just trying to find ways to build them up so that they can then do the things. So my 18-year-old daughter, very much an introvert,
uh-huh.
for years we have homeschool themes, yearly themes, and for years her theme was a year of bravery,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
all year we did intentional things to push her out of her comfort level, basically, in the community,
Uh-huh.
right? And it was simple stuff like, we'd be somewhere and she would want a refill, and it'd be like a Chipotle. It'd be somewhere where you have to go up to the place and ask them for it,
Ask them for it. Yeah, yeah.
right? And the 16-year-old, the two daughters are about 16 months
Apart?
apart, but the younger sibling would go get refills, no problem.
Yeah, yeah.
I want this, I want that, I want this. The older one just
It's not happening.
really had a hard time, and so
Yeah.
I'd be like, "So you don't sit here and deny yourself the drink because you
Thirsty
can't."
right now.
Yeah, you're thirsty, yeah, right. And so we would, just a bunch of things. "Okay, go in and, I'm gonna be with you, but I need you to pay for this, and you need to, do X, Y, and Z, or you need
Right,
to.
right.
Okay, you need more ketchup? Okay, I'm gonna sit right here, you go get it.
Uh-huh. Right, right. I got your back from here.
I got you," you know? It was stuff like walking over a bridge because she was extremely, sort of, hesitant.
Yeah, sure, sure.
To walk over water. So we just did lots of things, and then it was public speaking,
Ooh,
right? And
that's the
so
one.
it is, and it
That's
was
the
really
one.
hard, and her first public speaking, I'm gonna call it a competition because we joined 4-H because they have youth public speaking
Lovely.
competitions, right?
Yes.
You practice, you have a speech, you get up in front of a small group, you do it, you get your little ribbon, and, it's all love, right?
Yeah. Right. That's right.
But her first one literally was crying, and I had to go up there, and she was, like, grabbing on my leg, and I was
Oh,
or my
yeah.
waist, and I thought, "Oh, we've gotta keep," but she made it through. She got through it,
Okay.
right? She got through it, and so just over the years, it's just been, you know, pushing, pushing, pushing,
Uh-huh.
and, a few years ago, and then she started leading workshops, right? So this is where you start to see the the work of put the years of bravery, right? Because she just
Yes.
finished a 10-week workshop before he's teaching kids STEM and robotics, where
Uh,
she's the one planning all the lessons, she's delivering it. She teaches at our homeschool co-op. She does STEM for little kids.
incredible.
And so she's, now she won a public speaking contest last year, the oratorical contest. But all of these things, she's spoken at the youth climate change down at the General Assembly. Um, all these things came from early on seeing where there was opportunity for skill building and saying,
Yeah,
"All right, we're gonna build opportunities for you to stretch." And whenever you stretch, it's really hard. And so
of course.
finding and she wanted to do this. So it was not me pushing, it was just,
Right.
"I don't know why, mommy, I can't do this. It's so hard. I wanna say this. I wanna go get my drink."
Right. That's right, that's right. I know.
Yes, right. I wanna be to do these things, but something, in me is
Yeah.
just very uncomfortable. It makes me very nervous. And so, trying to find opportunities for kids, really, so that they can see themselves push through is a great way to teach them that they can be the leaders in their lives and in their dreams and go after what it is they want. But I feel like, um, it's easier to start that when they're younger than when they're 17 years old,
Oh, and
because now, even your influence over them has shifted
oh,
in the later ages.
no doubt. No
And
doubt.
they wanna work, change people can make changes all throughout their lifetime. That's what being human
Absolutely.
is all about. But, finding opportunities. So if your child has something that they're really interested in, not just thinking, "Oh, you're a kid, you can't do that," right? but saying,
Right.
"All right, what can we find for you to actually get out in the community and do these things?" Whether it's starting a small business, and we saw you at the farmer's market, 'cause my other daughters do
That's
that,
right. That's right. Making
where
it
they have
happen.
to talk. Right, yeah, they've gotta talk, I mean, farmers markets are a lot of work because you gotta
Yes,
load
they
all that
are.
stuff. I mean, it is not an easy thing. You're
No.
constantly on your feet and talking to people and
Right.
interactions, and
Trying to make that sale.
sometimes you've gotta sell, but sometimes you get people who really aren't that nice too.
Of course, right. Of course. You in the public.
Yes, you are in the public, and you're having to deal with public people.
That's right. That's right.
Race.
That's right. That's right. That is so real. But everything you're saying, it just makes me think about the importance of stretching people while we can still stretch, right? So,
Right,
you know, sending a smaller child to do public speaking or teach them how to swim, ride the bike, all these different life
right,
skills. Once we get older and we sort of like think about all the implications of it, the anxieties from like, peer pressure, just like where we are in our social
mhm,
location, can really rob us of the opportunities to try new things. And if we don't
right.
kind of teach that level of dexterity from young, we get so rigid where we're like, no, this is what I do, this is all I can do. And we have that fixed mindset.
Right, and we meet adults like that all the time
Oh,
who,
Abby.
aren't willing to try a new food, and I'm thinking, "But you haven't had it before." Well, I just don't like I don't I'm like, "Oh, you won't even try it." Okay, that to me,
No.
I'm thinking fixed mindset.
100%. I know
You're
I
not even
won't like
willing to
it. How
try
do
it.
you know? How do you know you won't like it, right?
You're not allergic to it, right? So why not
Right. That's right, that's right.
it just people who are just unwilling to budge, and I think, the most successful people are people who are able to be flexible and to
Yeah,
bend while still having their standards, right?
yeah,
And their boundaries. But,
yeah.
you this is not a solo world we live in. You
Not,
gotta
it's
be able
not.
to navigate.
Have to, have to. And that leads me to think about how your work with homeschooling, has been such a great example of radical inclusion.
Mm,
How do you think about homeschooling as a tool for true celebration of different learning styles, right? Because, as we were speaking earlier, we're not only taught as educators to teach to like a large room and do classroom management, but oftentimes educators, unless you've had that like sort of special education training, struggle with understanding that all 25 of those kids are going to learn this very differently. And so how do you have
yeah.
like universal design and understanding that certain students are going to need accommodations for this, scaffolds for that? Like, talk to us about how that sort of radical inclusion shows up in a homeschool setting.
Yeah, I assume you mean a homeschool cooperative space, not
Yeah,
for
cooperative, yeah,
okay.
thank you.
Okay. Because at home, it's much easier, right?
Right, right, right.
Much
It's just
easier.
y'all, right?
It's just you, and I know exactly, okay, you know, that's gonna trigger Johnny, so I need to make sure
Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
that lunch is on time because if
That's
it's
right.
not,
It's like, it's 12:05, come on.
he's
Right.
going downhill because he's hungry.
That's
That's
right,
what's gonna
that's
happen,
right.
right? And in a group space, it is always much trickier. I think the benefit of a space like Cultural Roots is that the parents are there. And I'm going to be honest, even that sometimes can be harder, right?
Yeah,
Because parents are also wanting a little bit of time to themselves, a little bit of a break, a little bit of, you know, you,
mm,
you come to community because you want to be in community, but you
right.
also might just need to sit and go to Wawa for 10 minutes and get you a drink and just sit in the car. 'Cause this is the only quiet
I
time you're gonna get. And so we try to, keep in mind those things too. But I think what I encourage parents to do is if you know that your child struggles with something, right? If I know my child struggles with math, then
Yeah.
I need to be in that math class,
Yes, yes,
right?
right.
Because I need to see how the information is being delivered, make sure that it is a good fit. If it's not, try to talk to the teacher to figure out, okay, what can we do to make sure that, your child, when your child is really getting it and when your child is sort of faking it, right? You're like, she
Come
don't
on.
understand that. She's saying yeah, but she does not understand that.
Lost in the sauce.
Right. And kids will mask things, right? Because they don't wanna be seen in their classes, and so, I think, trying to develop a partnership with the instructors, and if it doesn't work out, trying to figure out, "Okay, what else can we do here?" Or, "What else can I do at home to support you?" I think even in English class, a lot of kids struggle with writing and
Oh, yeah.
organization,
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
we deliver the information, but it's really up to the parents to really sort of personalize that for their children when they get home, and you can see when that's happening and when it's not, and we just try to do the best we can, but I think the great opportunity that exists is that there's an opportunity to be present
Mhm.
as the adult. And there's an opportunity to then take that lesson and redesign it or re-explain it or redo it
Right.
or expand upon it in a way that best fits the learning style of your child. Or to have conversations with the teacher to say, so and so really likes when they can get up and put sentences on the walls. They
Yeah,
just need
yeah,
to be
yeah.
moving. And
And
you're like,
kinetic.
oh, I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah. Totally, totally. I love that because that way it really does become like a true cooperative rather than
Right.
just, I wonder how often you sort of run into that sort of learning curve where there is a sort of unspoken mentality, especially if you come from any type of school, whether it's like, private, Montessori, public, Catholic, where I'm sort of like dropping my kids off and
Right.
then I'm out. Like, that has to be a bit of a, like, mind shift, mindset shift in terms of saying, "No, I'm not just dropping off, but I'm showing up to that math class, I'm showing up to English class." There may be
Right.
opportunities for me to have, like, that moment where I'm just, like, drinking my Wawa coffee, but I also need to be in the mix. Like, how do you help parents with that sort of adjustment period?
That is hard.
Yeah. She's like, "That's
Parents
difficult."
are in different places, and, it's life is day by day, and so you try to allow grace, but I think that, I really try to have these conversations when we're interviewing and talking to families. Sometimes,
Uh-huh.
sometimes I think in the moment, everyone understands it, but I think sometimes when you're in the thick of it,
Yeah,
but
day
what
to
I
day.
try to always say is, and I need to have a better conversation with our teachers and just in general, just if a child is struggling, they don't have to struggle alone. Their parent is on site. Someone's on
Yes.
site
Yeah.
to assist them,
Right.
right? And so, most kids don't struggle in everything, and that's why we try to make sure our day is designed to have things in there that kids can do independently and that hopefully they love doing, right? So
Right.
usually they don't need help in capoeira or in pottery or art class. Like
Of
those are
course.
ones that we're like, go take your time.
Yeah.
It's some of the classes that may require a little bit more, or classes that maybe kids just struggle in.
Right.
But like I said, the gift of homeschooling and the gift of having a community is that you can choose to be there.
Yeah. Totally. Totally. And just it's such a breath of fresh air because one of the things that even as a teacher, and I taught for like 15 years, but one of my frustrations was that there's so much policing that goes into being
Mm,
a classroom teacher. Like there's it's a shock to the system when you've taught
right.
in both private and public school and you see like the latitude some of our children get and the restrictions other children have to live under. So the whole
Mm,
notion of me being able to control when you go to the bathroom or how many free periods there are during the day, or even just in the
right.
architecture design, the ways in which, spaces communicate to people their own sense of like self-worth and dignity. All of those things come into
Mm,
the mix, I think, with the homeschool co-op, I know with cultural roots, it's not just about like, the sort of like the in-person, classroom experience, but it's also using, the whole region as a classroom, right? Like going on field trips, learning about different like cultural opportunities throughout, the area. I just think about the level of psychological safety that provides, and I would love
mm.
to, hear you talk about the ways in which, the cultural roots and your whole philosophy on homeschool or cooperation allows children to take intellectual risks that they might not be able to take in a more traditional setting.
I love that intellectual risk. I see that the most at our high school.
Okay.
Um, Honestly, I think there's a lot more freedom given to the high schoolers in
Yeah.
terms of them having to take ultimate responsibility for their for
Ish.
themselves,
Yeah.
right? And that's very much appropriate because they're young adults and
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
need
Yeah.
to have, there's
Right.
always a layering to this, right?
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
don't get as much in the second grade as you're gonna get in the 10th grade.
Makes sense.
Um, and so what I see at the high school level are the kids being encouraged
Hmm.
really think a little bit more outside the box
Mhm.
and to really think about what does community collaboration look like? What does it look like to want to insert yourself into spaces? We had an opportunity early this year or last year. I guess it's still an opportunity. To really look
Wait, when was that?
we really want to offer because the high schoolers meet 3 days a week.
Right.
Um, and they're a drop off, so their adults are not there.
Yeah.
One or two parents will stay just because it's easier for them to stay on site and work than it is to go all the way back home and come back to get them.
Got you.
But for the most part, it's a drop off. So I like to say it's more similar to community college
By
in
the
a lot
commu
of ways. But they're working, they're doing a program right now with VCU's Mary Frances Youth Center that's around leadership, and they're creating a community event to kick off for young people for an art gala that we're going to have at the end of late spring, right before co-op ends. And so watching them put themselves out there and take a lot of risk or even around just one youth created the sort of logo or the imagery that would be used for t-shirts and all of that, but even
Uh-huh.
just being a young person creating something and then putting it out there for feedback from your peers but also the
Right.
adults. That's a lot. Erica Badu said, I'm an artist, I'm sensitive about my
That's right. That's right. I think about that quote at least once a month, honestly.
and imagine being a teenager doing that.
Right.
Right, for feedback or critique, and, there was another opportunity we had where we had a organization called All Kids Read, and they were looking to hire high schoolers to take over a lot of their social media,
Mhm.
and create the the wire boards and a bunch of things that I'm not really familiar with.
Oh, like the infrastructure behind it.
Yes, the infrastructure, and someone is the social media manager where their job is to check in with their peers to be like,
Wow.
"This is due here. Where is
Right.
it?"
We needed that yesterday. Come on, right.
Yeah, we needed that yesterday, but in very much in a, you know, "I'm somewhat your boss"
Right, right, right. There's a
role, and this
structure.
is right, and this is your friend, your peer.
Right.
So even that is sort of having to take a certain level of risk of even saying, "Hey, this doesn't meet what we talked about. I need you to redo this, or I need you to tweak that." There's a lot of subjectivity there because everyone has different opinions. But I think what these opportunities are teaching young people are
Yeah.
invaluable.
Invaluable. Yeah, yeah. With you.
Yeah,
That's so real. That's so real. Yeah, these are skills that will translate into whatever vocation they wanna take on later on in life, and they can
they
start those
are,
vocations early, you know?
right. And they
Yeah.
have to be willing to take the social risk of
Yes.
doing it
Yeah.
because someone could be like, so and so's always, hopefully, not bossy, so, someone could
Yeah.
sort of out you a little bit because maybe they don't like
Your style.
your style, right? But there's also a great opportunity to hopefully, and what we would do in the real world is come
Yeah,
together and talk about this and figure out, okay, what do we need to do to make sure we're on the same page?
for
But
sure.
there's also intellectual risk because you're putting out your own, brain.
Yeah. Your ideas are out there on the main street.
Ideas are out
Yeah,
there and everyone's gonna see it. So I just really love young people, and teens in particular having opportunities like that. But I also love it for middle schoolers and I think as
yeah,
much as possible elementary students.
for sure, for sure. We're seeing such a massive surge, nationwide with regard to Black families choosing home education and homeschool co-ops. Do you see this as a form of modern day resistance or a reclamation of ancestral ways of learning,
Mm.
both or something else? Yeah.
I think as someone who sometimes works the helplines at the Virginia homeschoolers desk,
Got
so I
you.
hear people calls in, so I know
Yeah,
what they're asking about.
right.
But also someone who I think talks quite a bit to people who are thinking about homeschooling. I wish it was more of an ancestral return. I do think by the time you've been in it for a while, you start to see it that way,
Yeah,
right? I don't think for most people initially that is the primary reason. And I think it's
got
because
you.
we move so fast, you can't even slow down to really sometimes get to that level.
Yeah, yeah, sure, sure.
of reflection. I think oftentimes people homeschool as a way to resist. I think people homeschool largely there's been some sort of issue.
Right, right.
Usually there's an issue of some sort, and
Something
the issue
showed up.
could be, bullying is a common thing.
Mhm.
Behavior can be
Right?
a common thing, especially with young Black boys in particular. We see
Man, yes,
this
yes.
constant, they're moving too much. They're just doing too much.
Yeah, yeah.
They're getting
Won't sit
written up.
still.
They dropped their pencil 10 times and now they're going to be suspended.
Right, right.
Yeah,
That's what I'm
that,
saying.
I mean, really,
Yeah.
you see sort of the over policing of Black children and parents saying, we're not going to deal with this. We're
Oh
going
my
to figure
gosh.
this out.
It is. Guys, that's not to jump in too quick, but, like, one of the, like, formative educational stories I have is, like, in my first year as a teacher, they wanted to get rid like, I had colleagues who wanted to get rid of this, like, 5th grade boy because he was just, like, too, like, independent minded. He would, like I don't know if he was watching, like, late night TV, like, he was staying up watching Jay Leno or whatever, but he would, like, come in and, like, crack these jokes that were, like, not vulgar, but, like, he was thinking a lot faster than your average 5th grader, so it would be
Right.
kinda sharp and, like, cutting even to the adults, and I was like, "No, this kid just needs a different environment," but the impulse reaction to it was like, "Get rid of him." I was like, "No, let's try to work with him and see what we can actually do," but, like, that
Right.
helps shape the way I think about education so much in terms especially in terms of Black boys, because the data backs us up, like,
Yeah.
way over suspended, way over expelled, like, always treated punitively, and it's just there has to be an interruption to it?
Yes. Absolutely. I mean,
Mhm.
the data's there.
The data's there,
The
like,
data
this
is
is not
there.
just a hunch.
Right. So when people say, "Oh, we did this study and we found X, Y, and Z," I'm just like, "You coulda asked anybody in the Black community. They coulda told you that a long time ago. You done wasted how much money? We coulda put
But
that
you
in
could've saved
after-school
your
tutoring."
money. Coulda got the kids a garden or something instead of just wasting on consulting.
Exactly.
So, it's particularly thinking about, with cultural roots, how have you seen, this, like, micro community, provide that sort of social and communal support that Black children need to thrive? The work that you all do with cultural roots, I think, is incredible, but just thinking about the ways in which you've seen it allow Black children to flourish.
Yeah. I think what I'm, most proud one of the things I'm really proud of is that oftentimes when the kids have been there for a little while and I see, like, Micah's having a we don't have a Micah, but Micah's having a birthday party, and then
Yeah,
I
yeah.
see pictures of his birthday party, and I'm like, almost all those kids are like his cultural roots kids, right?
Come
And like a few
on.
cousins, but I'm like,
A couple cousins there and there.
yeah, a couple of cousins, right? Like, I really love seeing people gather outside of co-op for play dates
Love
and just getting together. I feel like that, like you can obviously build friendships while you're
Mhm,
there,
mhm.
right? But your day is still fairly structured, right? Meaning
Yes.
you have a class,
Right,
you got an instructor, and you have a
right,
goal,
right.
right? We do have playground time, but the really best way to really solidify those friendships is to try to have these sort of even outside, just like in public school, these outside gatherings, right? For the children, but also for their parents,
Mhm.
right? Because then you start to see these little micro groups start to form, right? So I
Yeah,
saw, um, a group of kids who all went trick or treating together, right? And I was like, oh,
yeah.
that's cute. I mean, we don't celebrate the day, but it's all good. We don't.
Not my thing, but y'all do you.
Yeah, but you do you, right? But I
I
mean, but
love
I
it.
love seeing that
Yeah,
that's what's
yeah.
happening, and I know there was a group of boys who were middle school boys who were going jumping every Thursday or Friday at the
Oh
local
my
jump place,
gosh.
like, that
Yes,
was their
yes.
thing. So I think that's really the gift, being
Uh,
able to try to find time because 'cause we're all so busy, but try to
oh,
find
man.
time for them to see kids outside of the space just for pure just shenanigans, fun.
Yes, yes. Here for it. Absolutely here for it. So if Alicia, if there's a parent who's listening or watching this and they're feeling overwhelmed, they feel unqualified to teach their own
Mm.
child, what is that one North Star piece of advice that you want them to hold on to?
What I normally tell parents who are sort of back and forth, I don't know if it's a North Star, but I usually say that at the end of the day, I've never heard anyone ever say, I wish I hadn't spent that year homeschooling, or I wish I hadn't spent that year with my child.
Right, right, right,
At the
right,
end of the
right.
day, I think we all as parents wish we had spent, and I'm talking years now, someone who can look back, say, "Wish we had spent more time
Yes,
together." I wish
of
I
course.
had been able to do that with you or
Yeah.
been present more. And so homeschooling allows that. And you already know, especially if you attend a public school or private school, you already know what the option is, what the other
Mhm.
you already know what's here.
Yes.
You don't know what could be here,
Right.
right? And so you know, you could try it and see
Mhm.
how it goes. Give yourself grace. I tell people, give yourself grace that first year, just like you
Yeah.
would a new job or new anything. The first
Right.
year, you're trying to find your rhythm. You're trying to figure out, okay, how's this going to work? You will overbuy curriculum. You will probably do, a lot,
Yeah.
or maybe you feel like you didn't do enough, but it's okay. It's your first year. You're trying to figure it out, and your child
Mhm.
also is trying to figure it out. But try. The worst thing that happens, you re-enroll them, and they have to take them back.
Right. Have to take laws require this, right.
But the law requires public school anyway. They have to take you unless you've been expelled. But in general, they have to take you back.
Uh-huh.
So, I also can just tell you from the many kids, a lot of parents, are always saying, well, what if you do it right or we don't do enough?
Uh-huh.
You will never cover everything. They don't cover everything in public school. Throw away a lot of those, try to put those ideas to the side
Have
and
to.
really look at your child and say, what are the things, especially the first year. And now this is dependent a little bit on what grade we're talking.
Of
Right? If we're
course.
talking about a junior or senior, my advice is going to be a lot different than first grade, a lot different for, sixth grade. But in general, figure out what are the things, you really want to see strengthened in your child and work
Mhm.
on those. If you know that writing is hard, then I would really just try to focus on getting that writing up,
Yeah.
but do so in a way that it builds them up, not constantly reminds them that, they're not good at writing, but just
Right.
how stronger you're getting. You're now gonna write a family newsletter.
Uh-huh.
You now are gonna write, you know, um, all the birthday cards. We're just gonna
That's
get
right.
blank cards and you will now write them.
That's it. That's
Write them
it.
together.
No, I love that. I love that because it turns and what I've seen like the genius of it is that it gives and this part really does feel like a coming back to like a revival in a lot of ways
Right,
of giving young people opportunities to like be creators of things. It's a huge thing.
right.
I try to emphasize with my sons is that I'll see them and they're watching like brain rot videos and I'm like, don't just consume. I want you to create things too. Like, yeah, you can chill out. Like Daddy chills out and watches the Knicks play. You need to chill out also,
Right.
but make sure that you're creating things. Don't just make chill out the whole time, you know?
Exactly. Sign them up for that class to understand how to use CapCut editing. We got
Yes,
a we have a group of girls who all have, I think 3 or 4 girls who have a shared YouTube channel,
that's
and they
awesome.
all add videos to them, and the goal basically is to improve their editing skills,
That's it. That's it. No, I love
So it's
that.
all these ASMRs, "Get ready with me in the
That's
morning,"
right, that's right. That's the one. Crunch in your eardrum, like
crunching the taps and fix the bottles, and, in my mind, I'm thinking brain rot, but they're creating the content, so I
Yeah.
have to remind my Gen X self, "Okay,
Let the kids cook. Let the kids cook.
let them,
Yeah,
yeah, clock it or whatever."
yeah, that's what I call it all
Yeah,
that.
is it 1 thing or 2? I don't even know.
I don't know. I've only seen it. I have
Right.
I'm from the outside looking in.
Yeah, so just I tell parents just to try, and
Yeah.
then the second thing is try to find a community.
Oh,
It is
yeah.
it is homeschooling is not the picture that it used to be of people sitting around a kitchen table all day and, doing work. I mean, it can be,
Uh-huh.
but I think you're gonna have a lot more fun,
Yes,
and the
yes.
children will enjoy it and probably get a lot more out of it if you can link up with some other people
Yeah.
or find some activities that they enjoy doing to
Mhm,
get them involved in, get out of the house as much as you can, or invite people over to the house. Either way,
mhm.
try to find someone that you can do this with, or a group that you can at least take some breathing time for yourself. There's lots of Facebook groups out there too that are people are willing to give lots of good advice, some bad advice. You
Right.
know, scroll through.
Thinking
Yeah,
skills.
yeah, yeah. I would like to remind folks that there are people who homeschool for the exact opposite reasons that you choose to.
Yes. That is the thing.
And
That
so there are
entire
polar
wow.
opposites out there, and those are not your people.
No. Don't just Google homeschool and just call it a day. Like, I need just
Right.
scrutinize a bit.
Yeah, so, okay. Good luck to
No,
you.
this curriculum is a choice. This was a
What is that?
choice.
You want me to sign what? No, it's okay.
Well, can't do that. Can't
Yeah,
do it.
I'm
Can't
not
do it.
doing it.
Not at all, not at all. So Alicia, how can we, for those who are watching it and inspired by your work, how can we, support you and everything that you're doing with Cultural Roots?
Well, we always are looking for people who would love to come and share their talents and time. We are currently looking for a K-1 teacher, although I think we may have that squared away, but we shall see for finally next week. I think that's what happens. I think sometimes it's really hard when you run a co-op to get people to dedicate, longer periods of time,
Sure.
even though it's a short period of time, because it's just, we're all adults, right? It's really
Yeah,
hard to be like, I'm going to give my Wednesdays every Wednesday from 2 to 3. Well, something, I mean, it's like 1 hour, right?
right.
So you think, oh, I could do that, but then life happens. But
Yes,
also, sometimes people have to have employment that requires them to work from that 2 to 3.
that part.
And so those shifts happen and, we try to, again, pivot, be flexible, do the best we can, use parents until we can, figure it out. But we're always looking for volunteers. We're always looking for people who are just like, hey, I can just come and, I've worked with children
Right.
and, I play the piano and, we've got
Yeah,
3 pianos sitting around Pine Camp. And I'm sure, you used to be the choir director, you could offer a music club,
that's it.
um, just lending your support, however, whatever that looks like. Also, financial support is key. We really try to create a space where our families aren't necessarily paying per child, but per family. There's a little bit extra per child, but it will become, for a lot of folks, just unreasonable, especially if you've got 3, 4 kids to be paying hundreds of dollars per kid. I mean, you see it in other spaces, but that's just
Yeah,
not what we're trying to build. And so
got
financial
you.
support is always really key because we always have families who need to make shifts in their lives throughout the years. And so that
Mhm,
impacts us as well. And we don't
mhm.
go back and say, oh, so and so left. So now we're going to hike up everybody. We just say, okay, we built
That's right.
in a little knowing that, there's always a certain amount of some people, have to go back to work, especially was it last year or early this year? It's all a blur when people who were used to working from home had to go back into offices.
Oh, yeah, remote work ended for some
Yeah, the
industries,
remote
yeah,
thing for the federal workers, we lost, like,
yeah.
3 or 4 families, like, at one time, and
Wow.
that was a huge hit
Shock to the
for us.
system.
Yeah, because these families, we lost our friends, we
Yeah,
lost
they were involved.
yeah, yeah, and there was nothing they could do about it, and nothing
Yeah,
we could do about it. That's just
how it
the
goes.
shift of yeah, how it went, and, I mean, that sort of thing happens all the time, right? We had, a teacher who had to leave because they had to now become the primary caregiver of a grandparent, you
Wow,
know?
yeah, yeah,
And if we say that we support African ways and indigenous ways of life, then we've gotta
yeah,
support them
yeah.
through that because what are you gonna do? You
Seriously,
gotta do it. You gotta go.
yeah,
We gotta help grandma.
100%, right?
Right. And
100%.
we just try to work and try to, you know, pull it together, harambe, pull
Yes,
it together,
let's pull it together, right.
pull it together until we can, fill that gap.
Love it.
So that's how you can help us. There on our website, there is a page that you can volunteer time,
Mm,
and there's a page where you can volunteer dollars,
mhm,
but you also can volunteer you can also donate items,
mhm.
right? So there are always things that we're needing, like we could probably use some jump ropes. These are small things.
Oh, that's fun.
Kickballs. I'm thinking about the springtime when it rolls around and the kids being at
Yeah,
the playground, some items for them.
that's right.
Yeah.
So someone said something really encouraging. They were like, "There's only 6 Sundays left until spring," or something like that, and I just
Right. Yes.
you know,
We want more
100%.
daytime.
Need it, need it, need it. But Alicia, this has been a joy, and we'll put the website in the episode description for Cultural Roots. But thank you so much for being here, and thank you all so much for watching. As always, you can catch us on baddishchaplain.com. We're also on YouTube, social media at Baddish Chaplain on Facebook and Instagram. Yeah, but until next time, y'all take care of yourselves and do your best and to make this world a more lovely place. Till next time, y'all. Peace.